Everyone. Thanks for joining this sort of lunch and learn fireside chat, whatever you want to call it. My name's Ron. I am one of the customer success managers here at Swoop. I'm joined by the fabulous Sarah Bedford from H&B, Hold My Books. And we're going to have just a bit of a chat around how to unlock advisory value using Swoop. Bit of a sort of focus on client conversations, client value, and where Swoop kind of fits into that as part of your advisory offering. Sarah, I don't know if I've missed anything out there, anything that you want to get onto the docket, or anything I've missed out in introducing you?
I think that's great. I think for HMB, Swoop's been an amazing addition to our toolbox, and I think that's how we view it for us.
Perfect. Awesome. So I'll whiz through these slides just by way of a bit of introduction to Swoop for anyone who isn't familiar with us. Essentially what we do, we make it easy for businesses to match with lenders to find funding for growth, to ease cash flow issues, whatever it is. Swoop for advisors, the specific sort of channel of the business that I work in, we work with accountants and other business advisors, virtual FDs, whatever, whoever's speaking to businesses, to support them in those growth conversations with clients. Loads of businesses cite access to finance as one of the major roadblocks that they have in growing their business, and we aim to not only sort of provide the expertise and the relationships and whatnot to ease that as well, but Swoop technology as well to kind of open up those opportunities and assist everyone in sort of making the right decision for them. The reason why we love working with advisors like Sarah from H&B is that we find that those conversations where the SME has us to talk to from one standpoint, and then an advisor who knows their books and their financials really, really well gets the best result for everyone, essentially. Why do we do this? Basically because the demand for advisory from accountants is increasing. Access to funding is difficult, and like I said, a big barrier for small businesses. So we're here to kind of bridge that gap, basically. This is a very intense spider diagram. Don't feel there's not going to be a test at the end. You don't have to remember any of this, but this just kind of gives you a brief snapshot of all of the different things that we can do at Swoop. So obviously, the loans is the key pillar of what we offer, but then we have everything underneath that as well, so we can help people with equity investments. Grants as well is a huge part of what we do, and we do that for free as well, just getting grants into the hands of the right businesses, R&D tax credits, and then the evergreen sort of stuff at the bottom, expense reduction and savings, so that in between different funding events, your clients are supported and getting value from the platform. Skip through all of this because I'm not the star of the show here. We're here to ask Sarah lots of difficult questions. So Sarah, I guess how did you get started with Swoop? What were sort of the first steps for you, I suppose?
So the first steps for us with Swoop, so we've been using Swoop for a few years now after finding them at Countex. And for us, it was being able to have a platform where we could take the conversations that we already had with clients, but were very difficult to get answers to, or very time consuming with multiple brokers, etc., into one place and get an answer for a client in one place. And that's what was really important to us. And it was really, really useful for the firm.
Amazing. And I guess in terms of sort of, what drew you to it and those conversations that you were having, obviously statistics are one thing, but what are the common funding challenges that your clients are facing at the moment, and how does that affect their business as usual, their day-to-day?
The key issues that we've seen historically over the last few years have been clients looking to expand, clients looking to grow, clients needing a piece of equipment, and also clients looking to save costs on things like energy. What we're seeing a lot of at the moment is clients not in distress, but struggling a little bit for cash flow, or they've got debtors that are taking a while to pay. Obviously, it's a little bit bit difficult for small businesses out there at the moment, and we're finding a few more coming to us, well, not necessarily coming to us, but where we're identifying that they've got potential cash flow issues coming up, and that's where Swoop's been invaluable as well, to step into that bridge. A long way before we'd be looking at any solvency issues, but just where they're having those concerns, and they're the things that keep business owners awake at night.
Absolutely. And how do you encourage those conversations with your clients, I guess, it would be my next question. How do you get them coming to you and talking about those things?
I think it's a mixture. I think it depends on the client. So for funding for VAT, tax, etc., the links for those all go out as standard in the emails where we send the client out their VAT figures and discuss those. It's always within the template. So I think those conversations are something where a client sees it every quarter, and it's only the quarter where they've got an issue that they'll pick up the phone or they'll log into the portal and have a look. I think from the other conversations, because now compared to 20 years ago, we've actually got real-time better data. We're able to have those conversations earlier with the client. So, we have health check reports on the bookkeeping that we do, etc. And then when we get the results of that from the team, I can pick up the phone and talk to somebody. So that they're the conversations we're having. And then I think also our clients, we talk about Swoop in general to our clients, and we talk about funding options in general to our clients, and therefore they know that they can talk to us and they don't have to go to their bank manager, for example, if they have a bank manager these days.
So when you're talking to clients about funding and Swoop in general, how much of that would you sort of class as client education? Are they asking questions on the different types of funding and you feel like you have to give answers to those, or what do those conversations look like?
They're just within our general meetings with clients. It's always a question that we'd have, if we've got a meeting with some directors and we're discussing tax planning or business expansion or just even a pre-year end meeting. It's always one of the things that we always ask, do you need any funding? Are you looking for any funding, cost savings? Where we've got clients with large amounts of cash, it's whether or not they want to what they want to do with that, and if it's worth looking at interest-bearing accounts, especially when we know that the client needs that cash for something else. So we don't want to look at them doing anything with it because there is a plan for it at some point. So it's just in those general conversations, and what we're finding is that because we've been doing this for a while now, they'll now come back and ask you. I mean, they don't ring up and they say, "Oh, we'd like to look at Swoop." They ring up and they say, "Oh, that funding thing you were telling me about 3 months ago or 6 months ago," and that's what starts the conversations.
That makes sense. I guess I speak to accountants about this sort of thing every day, and a lot of them, you have a great onboarding session or whatever it is, they go away and they're like, "Yep, we're going to bring this up with all of their clients." A lot of the time they then don't do that. So I guess my next question would be sort of on a practical scale. How do you have any systems or processes for making sure that you have those conversations? Is it in any of your documentation or anything like that?
It's in all of the standard emails that go out with payments, so it's already automated into that. It'll go in some of the newsletters, some of the blog posts that go out to clients, but more importantly, it's in Howard and my DNA to discuss those things, and I think that's what we're quite a small firm, so it's just Howard and I as the directors, and we mostly see the clients. So the whole team are briefed on how it works, but it really is just becoming part of conversational day-to-day questions, all the questions you'd have with clients on a regular basis.
And as someone in an adjacent but different industry, sort of like the funding industry, how did you get the confidence to start having those conversations? Did that happen slowly, or did you just dive in?
I think we've always had the confidence to have those conversations. I think I've always had a tendency to ask those difficult questions. You are struggling, how are you going to put it right? Because that's the reality of business, and that's the reality of being their accountant. But I think we probably have stood back a little bit from funding conversations before we had Swoop, just because of the amount of partner time and work involved with multiple brokers. This broker only deals with assets. This broker only deals with this. You know, for example, pensions. You know, we can do pensions through the portal. You know, it's just the conversations that you would always have had and just brushed over, and, you know, are you looking to expand, or you need to look for financing for that piece of equipment. Now we can have more detailed conversations because we know that we've got people in the background that can help the clients and give accurate advice in the areas where, you know, we're not experts.
Yeah. Do you find when you're onboarding new clients that they're surprised that you're having these conversations with them, and or do you think it's an expected thing, kind of in the specific relationship you have with clients?
I think it depends on the client. I think a client that's coming from another advisor, depending on the advisor, sometimes is surprised at that. But I mean, we do get clients that come to us because of the services that we offer. So we've got a client that's coming on board, a new client, and they actually came to us because they were looking for investment and equity funding and R&D at the same time, and they came to us because of our relationship and the fact that they could get the support from Swoop as well.
Yeah, amazing. Before Swoop, what would that process have looked like for you with that client coming to you? Would you have even sort of engaged with them on that, or?
We would have engaged with them. Whether they would have engaged with us, I don't know, is another question. But that conversation would have been effectively, you know, going through your little black book. Who are the R&D people we'll talk to, or we'll go and talk to them? Who are the people who do asset funding, who do loan funding? You know, have you spoken to the bank? Those sorts of questions. And it would have been, it wouldn't necessarily have been a totally holistic approach. And it would have been, you know, different, one or two different providers. And one of the things with working with Swoop is that we can have a meeting for that particular client where we have everybody involved. We have the people from Swoop who do the angel stuff, the people from Swoop who do the lending, the people from Swoop who do the R&D. We can get everybody on a call and we can say, right, what do we all need to do? Let's all work together. How do these things work between the different arms, you know, on your spider diagram, the different legs of your spider?
Yeah, makes sense. You told me before we hopped on that you didn't have an answer for this, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. I know that you don't have a specific KPI for it, but how do you know that Swoop is working for you? I guess how do you know that it is a success? You said you're not measuring anything, but
we aren't measuring any metrics. I mean, obviously we can see on the advisor portal what's come in, what's been successful, what hasn't been successful. We don't actually monitor any KPIs, and we should. So, you know, that's my slap across the wrists on that one. But I think for Howard and I, we know it's working, not for us, but for our clients, because they're coming back and they're saying thank you when they're getting a result, and that's all I can ask for.
Amazing. So just, client satisfaction. That's all we're aiming for as well. So that's perfect. That's perfect for me. I guess it's worth sort of talking around the Swoop platform there. You mentioned obviously seeing everything in there. Of all of the things that you can get out of the platform, has there any been like a surprise to you, the ones that you didn't think you'd be using when you came on board?
The insight reports and the credit reports, I think that's really, really useful for conversations with clients.
How do you use those in conversations?
Well, it depends on the client. So for some clients, we'll run them for a year-end meeting. We'll always keep an eye on so the clients that are on the portal will always keep an eye on their credit scores and any changes. And it's also really interesting that I've had conversations with the guys from Swoop, and I know that particular bands are where you know, clients are more likely to be eligible for funding. So that's really useful for me. So if I've got a client that's looking for funding, but I can see there's an issue with their credit, or if I've got a client that'll be looking in 12 months' time, I can look at that and I can see what they need to do. And also in some cases, because that information is from statutory information, if there's anything additional that we know about that client that we need to disclose, that by disclosing that in the accounts might actually give funders a different view of that client before they came forward. So that's really useful. But the insight report, so we've got one client who's been a client for just over 2 decades, and has recently moved from they've got an in-house bookkeeper who's fantastic, and they've moved from a totally manual system of manual stock records, fully manual records, to a computerized system and cloud system. And what we've been able to do is be able to get more information into the insight report. And when we went out to see them, we actually took the insight report out with us, and we'd identified they had cash that they needed to be doing something with. And they actually said, "Oh, this is really good. Is this new?" And that was nice to come from a client that we'd worked for a long time.
Yeah, amazing. And obviously, so you're an avid Futurely user. We were working together back when I was working at Futurely by Sage.
Yeah.
How does funding wrap into those kind of forecasting conversations? Do you spin up much work from funding growth conversations in that way?
I think the work we do with Futurely actually pushes the growth conversations. A client who was coming to us and looking to grow before they even look for funding still needs to identify that their project has got legs, and that's where Futurely comes in. And I don't think it's just Futurely. I think we need to take a step back on that. Because it's also the cloud accounting platforms and having that real-time data. Because if I put bad data into Futurely, I'm going to get bad answers. And so that is actually our starting point. So a client that's looking to grow is your data clean? We'll run the health check report, or we'll make sure that's all okay. Then we run it into Futurely and we say, right, this is what you're looking to do. Let's run this through Futurely and see whether or not it actually is a good idea. So there is always that business owner that comes and says, "Oh, this is going to make me millions," and you look at it and you actually drill down into it and you're like, maybe it's not. So that's the question, that's the stage that we have it, and that then drives the funding conversations. And then also at that point, we've got the forecast, we've done the planning, we've sat with the client and identified that genuinely is an expansion or a scaling that's worthwhile doing. And then we've got the information immediately for Swoop. So as soon as the client signs up and says, "Yes, I want to start having these conversations," your colleagues are saying to me, "Have you got plans? Have you got, if we're doing investment, you've got the pitch deck, all those sorts of things." And we've got all of those and the forecast already.
Absolutely. I've even long before I joined Swoop, used to work with them all the time, because forecasting, cash flow forecasting, and these funding conversations do just go hand in hand. Are there any other apps in your tech stack that you find add into these conversations really well?
Yes, there are. So we use Xenon for our data, and the health check reports and the insight reports that come out are really useful. So that allows us to see, first of all, step one, the quality of the bookkeeping data, which feeds into the Futurely questions, but also the cash requirements for the business. So that's really useful, especially if we've got businesses with surplus cash. And also, if they've got a cash requirement coming up, or if they're going to have issues, paying corporation tax. So you've got the corporation tax estimates in there as well. That's really useful, and then we can have those conversations 3 months before the corporation's tax is due, or 6 months before the corporation's tax is due, not the day before.
Absolutely.
Or on the day, which is also
more likely.
Bit done.
Sounds like there's some experience behind that. What's been your favorite success story while using Swoop, and or maybe the weirdest or wackiest that you've had to work on?
I've not had. I'm listening to people. I've not had some really wacky ones. The nicest one I ever had was one of our clients were looking to grow and were looking to do a tender for a new site. And this is back to Futurely again. We'd used Futurely to get them the information for the bid, and they were successful. But once they were successful, they then needed to grow in other ways, and we've managed to get them funding. And it's really nice to watch them grow, and it's really nice that they weren't the most organised of clients. And what I really liked was that we could babysit them along with the financials, and Swoop were there to be able to hold their hands and make sure that they got everything they needed to do, while they were focusing on the actual day-to-day of running their new site and expanding into a third one.
Amazing. Yeah, those growth conversations, again, to see that from start to finish, definitely one of the big satisfaction points of the job. Unfortunately, as a customer success manager, I'm always 2 levels removed, just watching people be very happy in the distance.
Well, I got to eat pizza on their launch day, so that was always a good, in the sunshine, so that was always a good day.
Ideal. At this point, I'll just invite everyone on the call to fire in any questions that you might have for Sarah or myself on anything advisory or funding based. Yeah, be happy to ask that. Just conscious that we're coming to the end of our allotted half an hour. I guess next question that I'd asked Sarah is just moving away from the funding bit and more to you know, the savings products and whatnot, because obviously it's not really why people come to Swoop, but then it is their big value. And how do you bring up those conversations with clients on those extra added products?
These are savings products, and
Yeah.
or are these the fuel savings and corporate gas and electric and that sort of thing?
Yeah, the growth suite in there. So yeah, covering sort of yeah, the utilities and the insurance, and also
so those questions come about in 2 ways. So one of the things that we do is, if we do bookkeeping for the clients, if we've got that information in Automentry or Dex, for example, we'd upload those directly to the portal to see if there's any savings to be made, and then if they are, we can send them the savings reports. I know the savings reports have been changed a little bit, so they make them nicer now to send out to a client. And then also the conversations that we have, you know, when we're talking to clients about their business and about how it works, you know, in the same way as you're talking about funding, you're also saying, you know, talking about savings. And the nice thing about having, so obviously we have the source data, the invoices from the customer, from the client. So by the time we've gone into the meeting, the same as with the insight reports, we've actually got a breakdown of what savings they can make. And it's a sort of holistic conversation. It's not just, oh, you can save this on your gas and electric. It's actually, you know, these are all the savings that you can make. This is what you can do with your cash, and these are the things that will help you grow your business. It allows us to pull it all together. And it also allows us to have a conversation around Swoop with clients who don't need it now, who don't need funding now, but might need funding in 6 months' time. And also to have those conversations with clients who will talk to other clients. You know, we've had people come onto our Swoop platform who aren't clients, who are clients of another firm. But because they've spoken to somebody who's a client of ours that says, oh, my accountant's got this and you can access it from their website, you know, we've had people do that, and obviously they go directly to you guys at Swoop. We don't get heavily involved. You know, we'll ask them if there's anything we can do to help, and if we can't and they've got an advisor, we step back and let you guys get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we see that with a lot of our clients using the white labeled portal. Really great way to have that introductory conversation, and especially if they don't already have an accountant, or you know, maybe they're looking to switch or whatever. There's always a lot of conversations that will come off the back of looking for one of these requirements. A bit more of a kind of broad question, I guess. What let's say someone on this call, they're going to jump off of this and just take out a Swoop subscription this afternoon. What would you recommend they do, you know, their first week, first month, whatever, to set themselves up for success getting on board with the platform?
I think their first thing to set themselves up for success with the platform is to take the compliance, and I probably shouldn't say this because we should be talking about advisory, but take the things that are important for compliance and build those into your compliance systems. And that means that you're then comfortable having the conversations, because you're used to having conversations with clients about paying their VAT, paying their corporation tax, etc. So that gives you the confidence to have those conversations, and then building into their regular meetings with the clients the additional things that are within that portal. So yes, advisory is important, but we've, you know, many of us have been doing compliance for too many decades, and actually that's where that's where our clients expect us to have those conversations initially. So that's what I would start with. Give you some quick wins, and you know, give the clients you know, confidence in Swoop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially we're doing a lot of work with our advisors on getting embedded into especially VAT returns at the moment of my whole 6 or 7 years working with accountants, VAT is the constant thing everyone's talking about. It was the big draw to Futurely when we first got the automated VAT calculations and whatnot. And now I'm at Swoop, we're still talking about VAT all the time. Definitely a good place to start. Awesome. And then I guess in a broader sense, just coming to the end of our time now, what tips and tricks just in general, just your words of advice, Sarah?
In relation to Swoop?
Yeah, or just these funding conversations in general. Obviously,
funding conversations, I think don't be afraid to have them. For me, don't feel like it's a big sell. It's about what's best for the client. And I think also, depending on you as a practitioner, identify where the client needs to go and speak to a specialist within Swoop, a specialist in funding, a specialist in asset funding, and just facilitate those conversations, because that's what really helps our clients.
Absolutely, yeah. And what you'll learn as you come on board with Swoop is that obviously it's a tech platform and it helps you connect with lenders and everything, but what it is kind of more than that is a team of experts that you can always draw on. And I set up a lot of meetings with directly with clients of the advisors I work with and with the advisors themselves that aren't necessarily about a specific funding application or event, but just I've got a couple of clients that work in XYZ industry. What can you guys do to help that? What should I be looking out for? How can I support those clients better? We have a lot of conversations like that. So yeah, really.
We had a lot of those around marine. So I found out so many things about funding boats, which I'd never occurred to me before, and I wouldn't have been able to have those conversations with our marine clients without having Swoop in the background explaining to me that how different it was funding a boat compared to a car, etc.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, give everyone just 10 more seconds to see if there are any questions that want to come in. Yeah, I think we're just about at the end of our time. If you're interested in hearing more about Swoop, you're very welcome to get in touch with me, ron.pearson@swoopfunding.com. I don't know if you want to invite any conversations at all, Sarah, if you've got anything you want to shout out.
If anybody wants to have a chat about how it would be useful for their practice, obviously get in touch with me. LinkedIn's probably the best place to drop me a message.
Amazing. Well, we'll let everyone get on with their lunch breaks then. Doesn't look like any questions are coming in, but yeah, do please share any questions with either Sarah or myself via those emails we've just given, or on LinkedIn. I'm also on LinkedIn. You might not know it by how frequently I post, but I am there. So yeah, please do fire those in. Hopefully see you on the platform soon. And if there's anything that you'd like to see a webinar on soon, we'll hopefully be doing that. So thank you so much, Sarah, for your time this afternoon. We'll let you, I'm sure you're jet lagged from all of your travels. We'll let you go lie down. Thank you to Sage for setting this up. And yeah, I've been Ron Pearson from Swoop.